You're listening to the Dibbly-Dobbly podcast. Remember to like, share, comment, subscribe, and click the bell to make sure you get the latest episodes of the podcast. Be sure to like and share our Facebook page and follow us on Twitter and on Instagram. Get into it. And as I do with all my guests, Tony and the Bear, I like to take them back to their cricket memories, their earliest cricket memories, how they got into the game. And it's been very fascinating listening to people's recollections about how they got into cricket. So the question I have for both of you guys is, what are your earliest memories of watching, going to the cricket, and some of the players that you looked up to as idols? Who wants to go first?
Bear, do you want to go first?
All right, I'll go first. I vaguely remember the 76 series against the West Indies, but I'm not sure if that's just the trickery of the mind. It was a very hot year in England, and I vaguely remember that. But the series that really turned me on to cricket was the 81 Ashes, Botham's Ashes. I vividly remember watching the Headingley Test. I mean, I didn't really understand the game so much. I was probably, I was 10. I'd have been 10 that year. But obviously, back in those days, we had two TV. Did we have three TV? We had three TV channels then in 1981, didn't we? We didn't have Channel 4 by then. We had three TV channels, and during the summer, the BBC had the cricket on all day long, which was during the summer holidays. And obviously, as a poor kid, you got into that, and it sparked an enthusiasm in me. My brother was already into cricket, although he scared me because I remember him coming back from. We used to have like lunchtime school clubs at school, and he'd gone to one and come back with a bloody mouth and someone had thrown a cricket ball in his face. So I was always scared of fast bowling after that because I never wanted to get hit because he just had his face rearranged by a cricket ball.
I can understand, yeah.
But
especially no helmets back in those days.
Yeah, exactly. But I mean, that was where my enthusiasm for cricket was sparked, and then all through the year, then I started playing and I became a bowler, and I was playing a very good side of my school. We had a load of players. We were all playing sort of youth level, county level at the same time. There's about 6 or 7 of us all in my school side, and my club side was very similar. And so I kind of grew up for about 5 or 6 years there where cricket was the be all and end all. You know, as a timer, I thought, I want to be a professional cricketer. You know, it was that kind of enthusiasm for it. I was down the nets virtually every day of the week, playing 3 or 4 times a week. You know, it's all that. And that's where it all started for me. It's God's game.
Yeah, it is. It's a great game. It's a great game. And that's interesting hearing your recollections, Bear. Tony, what about your recollections?
Well, Bear started sort of more internationally. I was probably more club level. So I'd played all through school for my school team. I played for a club called Old Lyonians, who were my old boys, which I think was sort of Middlesex League. So I'd always played, but I think from a watching perspective, I kind of started more at county level. And when I used to live out in a place called Rickmansworth, I could jump on the Metropolitan line into Baker Street, and then Baker Street either walk up or get the train up to St John's Wood. So right from the age of sort of 11 or 12, I'd spend my Sunday afternoons going to watch John Player league games. If you remember that many years ago, you won't, because it was a long time ago. But you used to see, but Middlesex would be playing, they'd be playing all the other counties, but there was some incredible overseas talent that used to be part of those that you could routinely see close up on a Sunday afternoon, both on live TV and at the ground. So I'd go and watch the likes of Clive Lloyd. I'd go and watch the likes of Barry Richards, and seeing sort of that kind of talent close up on a regular basis on Sunday afternoons was my sort of gateway drug to being full on hooked to all forms of watching the game, really. So wherever I go, wherever I travel, I try and ensure that I can take in some cricket, assuming where I'm going is cricket season, and sort of make sure that I never miss an opportunity to, at all different levels of the game. I don't really mind whether it's test match or club level. I just like to make sure I can see some cricket wherever I go.
That's right. It's the same with me, and I think I can relate to you, Bear, and Tony, being a cricket tragic. I'm a full-on cricket tragic myself. Anyone who knows me, I'm always watching the cricket, always talking about cricket, can't stop thinking about it. Even listen to cricket in my sleep, trying to make me go to sleep.
Yeah, I was going to say, is that us when you were We're about the right time for it to be night time for you.
No, I think that's just what the game does, isn't it? It hooks you.
Yeah, it does.
It can be a frustrating game sometimes, can't it?
Wasn't that the famous old Geoffrey Boycott story? I can't remember who asked him. Oh, it was Jonathan Agnew asked him, didn't he? He said, "Didn't you put a few people to sleep in your time, Geoffrey?" To which his reply was, "Aye, but I was still batting when they woke up."
Well, he was old school, wasn't he, Geoffrey?
He was.
Yeah,
he was.
Bloody
Had a strike
Geoffrey.
rate of like 20 or something, whereas now it's like 150. You know, if you have a strike rate of 20 now these days, it would say you're no good in T20 cricket.
No.
What are you doing? You need to strike it at 150, 200, like Maxwell.
Do you know what? He keeps appearing in my notes, my cricket notes. I'll tell you why. Because quite often, when you look back in history, a lot of teams will have played their first ODI against England. Certainly, it's true of Australia, and I'm pretty sure it's true of West Indies, actually. So I always have a look at, when I'm doing notes prep, what was the first international game they ever played? Because quite often that's a Rich Seamer conversation. And if it was England, then quite often it would have been in the 70s and it would have been Boycott. So I always look at Geoffrey Boycott's figures. He never made any runs, but it's normally like scored 3 off 28 balls or 3 off 30 something balls. So Geoffrey keeps turning up in these first ever ODI games, not for a huge accumulation of runs, but by the fact that he scored not very many and loads of balls to get not very many. Anyway,
well, didn't he bowl in a World Cup final?
He may well have done, and probably with his cap on.
With a cap,
yeah.
I think he got a couple of wickets. I think, looking back.
No, he does.
With his cap on backwards and that.
That was right. Yeah.
Oh yeah, you wouldn't be doing that back then. That's national uncool, whereas now today it's cool. Yeah, sort of my generation, people in the 20s, wear your caps back, jeans ripped up, and all that stuff. I don't see what the point is, really. Well, I suppose the world changes, doesn't it?
It does.
Even watching cricket like yourselves, it's changed pretty dramatically.
Yeah, certainly has.
I think just look at the formats that didn't exist before. You now go down to T10. You've got the 100. You've got I can recall when everyone thought just one day cricket was some newfangled thing to wear strange clothing and it'll never catch on type mentality. So I try and remind myself of that when I get very upset and antagonized by what I see as sort of marginalizing the longer form of the game, which is something that massively concerns me. I always try and put things through a sort of if I go back 50 years and think when changes were made, what did people say then? And they were saying much the same kind of things. I still think I do still have those worries, I might point out, but I always try and recall the initial reaction to changes.
Well, there's that perennial thing that everyone thinks that Test match has been dying for 100 years, but it still persists. I mean, we've just had the World Cup and Australia won, which is kind of, as an Englishman, it was a little bit, But I have to say, it was
great to see England do so poorly, Bear.
Oh well, I can imagine as an Australian that was highly enjoyable. Yeah, but it was quite fun actually watching India's sort of crestfallenness, if you want to call it that. After filling the Modi Dome with 130,000 expectant fans, and it looked like it was in a procession, and then they managed to screw it all up right at the end.
Well, that's pressure.
Yeah, it is. And I did wonder whether that would happen. I mean, it was a tricky one for me. India at home. I'm starting to dislike India mainly because I dislike Modi and you want to bring politics into it. I don't like nationalism at the worst, and India seems to be going down that route with the BJP and all that sort of stuff. So I don't particularly. I like Kohli and I like the team, but I don't like where India is going as a country, I guess. And then Australia, the old enemy. So watching them lose would have also been joyous. It was a tricky one. It was a very tricky one, but in the end, I suppose it was quite nice because it was quite nice having to watch Modi looking totally disinterested, having to hand the trophy over to Pat Cummins was quite.
That was
funny.
a bit awkward.
It was very awkward.
Very awkward.
It was very funny.
He's like, "Here you go. There's the trophy," and then Pat's just
exactly.
Can you turn the lights up? Turn the lights up before you go.
Turn the
I'm
lights
off.
off. We'll leave the key under the mat. You can let yourselves out.
That did seem to display something of a lack of class to me, I've got to say.
Yeah.
The way that whole thing was done. It was
well,
so
certainly,
clearly geared to be a celebration of India. And
Yeah, of
Yeah.
course.
it just went horribly wrong, didn't it?
Well,
Not from an
exactly.
Australian perspective, I might point out.
Well,
It went
we're going to talk about
very
the
right.
World Cup a bit later on.
Okay.
So that's a bit of a preview for that.
Hi everyone, hope you enjoyed our cricket discussion with Tony Bishop and the Bear from Guerilla Cricket. I hope you enjoyed hearing Tony, the Bear and I discuss their cricketing journey.